What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So a quick reminder, I will be live streaming that PlayStation showcase later on today, going live 15 to 20 minutes ahead of its start time, which is 1 p.m. Pacific or 4 p.m. Eastern time, and I'm looking forward to seeing some big game announcements there. Today, though, we have a bunch of things to go over, which includes the PlayStation 5 Pro. And I know what you're thinking, I can't even get the PS5. Well, good news, here in a couple of years, we'll be able to complain about a whole other system we can't get a hold of. Also, we're going to talk about Sony making another move here, acquiring their 14th studio, and Tales of Arise. It's out tomorrow, and you're going to want to see some of these reviews. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Crash Bandicoot. Now, whenever we have these different games coming up from Activision, Toys for Bob, all this, either Crash Bandicoot or Spyro, we typically have something that gets sent out to different outlets or streamers, kind of teasing the idea of an announcement coming up. Remember, we had like the fuzzy dice that was for CTR, or maybe the purple egg that was for Spyro. Well, now we have something else being sent out for the Crash Bandicoot 25th anniversary. You can see, for example, here this was posted up that looks like a box that has a Crash Bandicoot themed pinata inside. Now, it doesn't appear that there's anything inside the pinata outside of, from what I can tell, like some candy, but this more or less seems to point towards some sort of announcement, maybe for Crash Bandicoot 4. There could be DLC possibly announced, we'll say, at the showcase later on today. Some people are wondering if it's a whole new game. That's also possible. I'm just kind of leaning more into the idea of maybe there was a team still kind of working along with Crash Bandicoot 4, and they have some new content coming up here to release for the game to kind of go along with the 25th anniversary. But I guess we'll find out here in a bit with that showcase. Also, it looks like we have another collaboration to look forward to here between Nintendo and LEGO. They shared this video over on Twitter under the LEGO Group account, where they say, "Hello, we've got a question for you." And in the video, they seem to have a question block being shown as a silhouette here with some flashes of light showing it off. And now everyone's wondering what's inside the question mark block. Obviously, we had like the NES, which is a really cool idea because you also built the TV that had Mario running alongside of it. And the question mark block, I guess we're going to be building it, and then inside there could be coins, it could be maybe Mario. There's a lot of possibilities here, and I guess it is cool to see these different collaborations between Nintendo and LEGO, but of course it also leads to a lot of collectors scooping these up immediately, and then they're difficult to get. So looking forward, I guess, to the reveal here, more so what's inside the question mark block, because they had no problem really just showing us that it was the question mark, and I think the biggest part is going to be the surprise that they have inside. Oh, and for the 12 of you who are still playing Marvel's The Avengers, it looks like Spider-Man is going to be heading to the game before the end of the year. Remember, that was the big talk around this game, is that there was going to be Spider-Man being added as a PS5 exclusive character. However, he didn't make it out early on with the game when it at least had some popularity behind it, whereas the Avengers game seems to have kind of fallen off now. But there was a new roadmap that was published here, and we can see new hero event, Spider-Man. So good news there for anyone who bought, I guess, the PlayStation version, anticipating Spider-Man maybe being released, I don't know, in the first month or two, or even around launch for this game. It's been a little while, and I am curious if there is still a lot of excitement around Spider-Man finally heading to this game. There seemed to be a lot of it, and a lot of controversy, obviously, at the time, because it was being held to a specific platform. But again, I do wonder if this is something that is going to excite people and bring them back once again to the Avengers, or if it's too far gone now and they're already looking towards the future for something new. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the PlayStation 5 Pro. I was a little surprised to see this just trending on Twitter, and several articles started to pop up on different outlets around the idea of the Pro. I didn't know if this was just something getting kicked around online for fun through conversation, like, oh, can't find the PS5, guess I'll wait for the PS5 Pro. No, this appeared to be kind of a rumor that was put out there by a YouTube channel by the name of Moore's Law is Dead. There's an entire, almost like just a roundup of rumors and different things for the PlayStation Showcase, as well as a potential PlayStation 5 revision coming up in the next several years. In fact, he was pointing towards 2023 or 2024 and had, I'd say, more speculation around certain details for the system that may have then just started popping up as headlines around the story. For example, you can see this here. This was posted up by WCCF Tech saying Sony PlayStation 5 Pro targeting late 2023-2024 launch, pricing at around $600 to $700 for a premium 8K gaming segment. They go on to say Sony is also planning to refresh its own PlayStation 5 console with a Pro variant that will tackle Microsoft Xbox Series X and S. Refresh planned sometime around late 2023 and 2024. The new console would pack a new AMD SoC featuring higher performance, but being a Pro console, Sony is very likely to position it at the premium 4K, 8K gaming segment. Now, I will say Moore's Law did went into a bit more depth here and even had to comment below the video saying, hey, I'm not confirming that this is a $700, $800 system. I'm just more or less thinking about what they could do with this system because it sounds like this would be planning that's very early on. If it wouldn't be coming out till like late 2023 or early or even mid 2024, which a lot of this will probably depend on the current chip shortage that is ongoing. And we've heard companies like Toshiba say this could be going on for a while. Like it might not be solved next year and we could be looking towards 2023 for that to happen. Let's say that gets all figured out. Yeah, I do think there probably will be some sort of mid-gen revision or refresh around these systems. At the very least, we need a slim PS5 because that thing is massive. However, I will say the idea of 8K gaming, I just don't know if that has the same pull that we have with 4K. Like 4K was something that people were at least talking about ahead of the PS4 Pro and seemed to have some interest because there was a noticeable difference for 1080p to 4K if you had a larger screen. I don't know if the difference is as obvious with 4K to 8K, certainly not with the performance that you lose going from one to the other. I do also think we could see Microsoft and Sony more or less lean into the idea of different AI upscaling techniques in order to get to 8K rather than just stuff a bunch of really expensive hardware into these small machines that you have to then make fit in like an entertainment center, and then you have to hope that people who buy these systems will ventilate them correctly. There's a lot of factors going into this, and then you get into the pricing around something that would be $600, $700, even $800, and you're trying to market this even to parents who would buy them for like their kids. It's tough here because Sony clearly has the idea of pricing at least being lower for some of their models, with that PS5 Digital Edition being $400 in order to get it out to more people. But as we've seen, refreshed hardware at least gets people interested once again in these systems. I mean, the Switch Pro got a lot of people talking about the idea of another system from Nintendo to sort out things around frame rate and lower resolution that we deal with currently with the Switch we have now. So I wouldn't be shocked, like I said, if we get to a point where the chip shortage is being dealt with, and then all of a sudden Sony starts talking about what could be next for the PlayStation brand. What's another piece of hardware we could come out with? And yeah, we get to a point where there is a PS5 Pro and yeah, probably another Xbox. I think for Microsoft, they're going to deal with more a family of devices that would range from a streaming stick that could be like $60, $70 with a controller and upwards of, yeah, $600, $700 console. It's really going to come down to what Sony wants to do here with their PS5 going forward. Do they lean into hardware and make their system more expensive, or lean into more advanced upscaling techniques and keep the hardware more in check when it comes to the pricing? But as of now, all of this PlayStation 5 Pro discussion is based around, we'll say, very early rumors or even reports around something that Sony is planning in an R&D department somewhere. And let's face it, these R&D departments are always working towards new systems, new hardware, new accessories. This comes down to if that ever sees the light of day. Next up, let's talk about a new studio acquisition that Sony announced yesterday, this being for Firesprite. And the interesting thing about this acquisition is, turns out is a bunch of familiar faces now returning to the PlayStation family. We can have here a PlayStation blog where they say, after a number of years closely collaborating on several games together, including the Playroom, that's for the PS4, the Playroom VR on PSVR, I couldn't be more delighted to welcome Firesprite to the PlayStation Studios family as our 14th studio. Quite a few members of Firesprite come from SIE's Studio Liverpool, and we're thrilled to welcome them back. Now, Studio Liverpool shut down years and years ago, and it appeared that several of the developers and employees there went off to create this new studio, and now they're being acquired by PlayStation. So there we go. Interesting turn of events, I guess. Firesprite is a creative and ambitious studio that is exceptional at building incredible experiences that truly showcase the potential of our hardware. The team's technical and creative capabilities will be paramount to growing our stellar catalog of exclusive games, and I think you'll be excited for what's to come. So quickly, we can look over what Firesprite has been able to do since 2013. They were formed 2012. So we can see here the Playroom in 2013, Run Sackboy Run, the Playroom VR, Air Force Special Ops Nightfall, the Persistence VR, and then just the Persistence. Now, looking at this here, I feel like it's going to be obvious to a lot of people that they're going to be working on some sort of VR experience for the next PlayStation VR headset, the PSVR 2. Now, they also did work on Wipeout, so hey, there's always hope, I guess. Maybe there will be a new Wipeout game somewhere in the future. And you know what? Wipeout makes a pretty good VR game, so I would like that. I think it'd be pretty cool to see Wipeout VR for like the next PlayStation VR 2 with all the extra features they're describing with this new headset. But this acquisition does make sense, as Sony is most likely going to be leaning heavily into their PlayStation VR 2 setup next year, as we're probably about, I'm going to say 12 to 14 months, that'd be at the latest, for this new accessory for the PlayStation 5 to release. So it makes sense why Sony would start really looking around for studios they could bring in to kind of bolster the lineup for their VR games over the next 5 or 6 years. Next up, let's talk about Death Stranding Director's Cut. It's out here pretty soon, and I've seen quite a few people online say, you know what, I'm gonna go check out Death Stranding for the first time on my PlayStation 5. They have been showing quite a bit of content with this Director's Cut, and I've also noticed that many people are saying, you know what, I'm gonna go back to Death Stranding again to check out some of this stuff. And one thing that they had mentioned, and I was curious how they were gonna pull this off, had to do with an ultra widescreen mode for a system, the PS5, that doesn't support that when it comes to the resolution settings in the system setup. With PC, Death Stranding's there, it supports ultra widescreen, so you go in, change a few settings with resolution, and then boom, you have this nice wide panoramic look to the game. Well, it turns out Kojima did reveal how he was doing this. We can see this over on Twitter. He did quote tweet an image that he had posted up saying, instead of cutting off the top and bottom with black, wide is really widening the left and right sides and rendering them with PS5. Therefore, the amount of information increases. You can see a wider range of backgrounds, enemies, and items. This makes the player look smaller. So yeah, the idea is the image itself, there's more information there, and a lot of that has to do with the character and I guess things on screen kind of being shrunken down a bit, almost like you zoom out and then you have like a black bar on the top and bottom, basically. But rather than just shrinking the image completely, like cutting off the top and the bottom to get that widescreen kind of look for a TV that's not necessarily that kind of a widescreen monitor, you still get more information, which is actually really cool. It's a good idea. I'm curious if any other games will try this, because Death Stranding, it makes a ton of sense for ultra widescreen support, because yeah, I get it, half the time you're kind of just walking, but some of like the landscape and scenery, it's pretty mind-blowing at times, just kind of look ahead and see that. And the more information you can put on screen and kind of widen that out, I think the more impressive it'll look. So it's a cool feature to have. Some people might look at it as kind of a small feature, but I think this could legitimately change the way the game feels when you're playing it at times. Trust me, there are some really cool moments in Death Stranding. When you go over a mountain, for example, after trying to climb up it for a while, you kind of get this moment where the music kicks in and there's just really this sense of relief. It's really cool. So, I mean, I think it's worth checking out Death Stranding, at least trying to experience it, because you never know, you might like it. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Tales of Arise, because reviews did drop yesterday, and I was a bit concerned with the development of this game. It didn't seem the smoothest. Obviously, they had to delay it and push things back a bit. Everything that was going on with COVID and the pandemic, it wasn't easy, I'm sure. But we can take a look at reviews here on Metacritic. It is currently sitting at an 87 at the time of this recording, with 50 critic reviews. This is on the PS5, and from what I can tell, going back through the history of the Tales games on Metacritic, this is the highest rated Tales game so far. It is 1 point above Tales of Symphonia that was sitting at an 86 on the GameCube. If we look at the split, it's currently 49 positive, 1 mixed. And if you kind of just read down some of the reviews, a lot of them are pointing to a very interesting and gripping story as they described it. The combat was fast, furious, customizable, and fun overall to play. And everything about the visuals, the way they're presenting the story feels very high quality and highly detailed. It appears that the shift to Unreal Engine 4 really paid off for Bandai. I mean, some of these different publications say this takes the Tales game in a great direction overall, and I'm very happy to see this. It hasn't been the best outings for some of the more recent Tales games. I mean, people did like Berseria, and I thought that was pretty good, but we had some other ones like Tales of Xillia and Xillia 2. They were just, all right. So I'm happy that they decided to take the extra time with this game, and now I'm just hoping it can sell, because if they can at least get to expectations with this one, and then of course maybe continue to sell over the long haul, we can get some more high quality JRPGs from Bandai in the Tales series, and then continue to build on what they've done here with Unreal Engine. I mean, next up would be a Tales game on Unreal Engine 5, so exciting stuff here for the future of the Tales games, like I said, provided it does sell. I will be picking it up, though, on Friday, tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it a bit on the podcast. Again, I'm not going to be able to jump too far into it if this game is, as some of these places are saying, 80 to 100 hours to run a completionist route with it, where you're getting all the achievements and trophies. I'm sure just a couple hours of me scratching the surface here. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a little poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, what does Sony open the showcase with? And 20% said a new first-party IP, 5% said a new third-party IP, 29% said an update for a known game, and then about half of you voted for Jim Ryan. And we'll ask these questions on the podcast if we're coming up to an event. We just happen to know about the showcase well in advance. How do they open the show? And I do like the idea of these different companies that run these events to open with something hard-hitting and exciting and just build hype right away, and you go, okay, wow, yeah, this is a big showcase, like right off the bat. Like, maybe one of those games that we talked about that could see a revival to get people really excited. Sly Cooper, Jack and Dexter, sure. Or SOCOM. Maybe even, you could even go with Last of Us Factions. Like I said, just get people's attention immediately, rather than just kind of fade out, then fade back in, and Jim Ryan's kind of hanging. Although people really do seem to like Jim Ryan, so maybe that's the route they go. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Steven saying, John, nobody talks on their phone anymore, do they? Me laughs at Nintendo Switch online app. You know what? I'm curious if anyone even uses that anymore, or even if they used it in the first place, because I saw what Nintendo's presenting, and my first thought was, why can't we just plug a headset into the Switch? It should support that, right? We've seen some games do that, like Fortnite, and just move along with it. What, like, it seems like it was more work than should have been necessary, and I do think some people are just like, I don't really feel like connecting my phone right now, I'm just not going to talk on here. Or they'll just open up Discord, like I see people who stream do quite often, and just kind of handle it that way. Maybe I'll run a poll for this. I'll ask if anyone uses it or has ever used the Nintendo Switch Online app. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. It was the PlayStation 5 Pro. It was trending on Twitter yesterday. There's a lot of talk online around it, but do you think Sony is really going to release a revision for the PS5 that is more powerful and more expensive here in the next 2 or 3 years? Then what about Tales of Arise? The reviews look good for it, but are you picking it up this weekend? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.